From Tyngsboro Television and the town of Tyngsboro, I'm Roni Camille, and this is Inside Town Hall. Coming up on the program, Tyngsboro Public Library staff are getting ready for a potential opening after months of being closed due to the COVID pandemic.
We are hoping to reopen the library in a limited way in the middle of August.
As the start of the new school year draws near, the head of the Tyngsboro Public Schools share how he and his staff are working to keep students and faculty safe.
I'm taking all the precautionary steps I can as a superintendent to make sure that our school and our systems are ready to go, that they are as safe as possible.
The COVID-19 pandemic has affected how we interact. You'll hear from town staff how they've had to change their workflow to continue helping the community.
It's more of the lack of people and trying to find out other ways we can reach out to them. And just to make sure everyone gets what they need.
This and a roundup of all that's happening in your local government, coming up on Inside Town Hall. Hello and welcome to Inside Town Hall on Tyngsboro TV, a public affairs program detailing what's happening inside Tyngsboro's government. I'm Roni Camille, and it is so good to be with you once again. We hope you find this program informative. We have lots to cover for you today, including new news from the public library, but first, we take a look at what's happening with the latest on COVID-19. News numbers are in from the states. There are 304 newly confirmed cases and 15 new deaths, bringing the total cases now to above 109,000, and the number who have died from COVID at just above 8,300. Meanwhile, in town, the local Board of Health reports that there are now 100 cumulative confirmed cases of COVID-19 as of July 31st. Also, as of July 31st, the town offices are back open on Fridays, following a closure in March. Town Administrator Matt Hansen says anyone conducting business should continue to social distance, wear a mask, and follow guidelines from health experts.
Tyngsboro is continuing to work on its safety plan to reopen its buildings to the community. We're also looking to ease some social restrictions while minimizing the health impacts of COVID-19. As we proceed, though, we do need to note that cases in the country are still continuing to rise, so it's very important to continue to wear your masks and social distance. The officers are equipped with physical barriers and many sanitizing stations throughout the building. Residents and contractors are encouraged to continue to conduct business online via phone or email. However, if you do proceed to the building, you'll see these guidelines, which are shown on the screen and shown on the front door of the building. We're enforcing social distancing at Town Hall. Masks will be required. Masks are available. If you don't have a mask, we can provide one. Anyone who's feeling ill should not come into the building.
The COVID-19 pandemic has forced everyone to change their way of life. In March, the town offices had to be closed to the public and change how we do business. But through it all, your local government pivoted and its day-to-day operations continued by phone and even online. Human Resources Bridget Bell tells Inside Town Hall her office was focused on promoting virtual on-site wellness programs for the Massachusetts Interlocal Insurance Association for all town and school employees and their families. Both police and fire departments obtained grants to expand their services to the public for mental health and or to do minor renovations.
This past spring, earlier this year, we were able to actually complete the process and become part of the initiative, which is a collaboration. We were the fifth and final town to join this collaborative. The other towns, Dracut, Chelmsford, Tewksbury, Billerica, part of it. And what it does is it pulls resources from a group of mental health professionals who have come together called the Frontline Initiative. And they offer mental health services, drug and alcohol abuse, and a lot of those type of services, which are, people have struggled finding help for when needed. We're actually going to be able to, for residents of Tyngsboro, because of the Tyngsboro Police Department's being part of this initiative, we're going to be able to have residents be able to access a clinician 24 hours a day. So an example of this would be, say, 3 o'clock in the morning, one of our officers deals with a volatile family situation, and that involves, for example, a family member who has a severe, drug problem or a mental health problem. And rather than go down the criminal route, which has been the typical response in the past for law enforcement, we're going to be able to offer an alternative, which is to get that person help almost immediately through this initiative. And we'll have access 24 hours. We can set up with a clinician to come out and meet with that family almost immediately.
Have the challenge of being, as everyone knows, in a very small, compact building, and we don't have separate bunk spaces and that kind of thing. We've actually been pre-approved for some minor renovations to the station to separate the bunk areas as part of the CARES Act in response to the COVID virus. So creating a more safer workplace for the guys with that federal grant opportunity to actually create some separate bunk areas and kind of move some things around. And we're in the process of making those corrections now.
And they even joined the library in hosting a virtual story time every night. Library Director Sue Arthur says that while they are only currently doing curbside checkout, there are some news developments that are in the works.
Keeping safety in mind, we are hoping to reopen the library in a limited way in the middle of August. We're staying on top of all of the safety protocols. We're getting ready. We're setting the library up. And we'll, of course, follow the most recent data relative to the coronavirus. But we do hope to open the library in a limited way in the middle of August.
Over at the Council on Aging, Director of Elder Services Barbara Roach tells Inside Town Hall that her office has seen an increase in bus services and Meals on Wheels, and that they're slowly rolling programming with safety as a priority.
With phase 3, we just brought back yoga, Wii bowling, and bingo, because we can do it with safety protocols in place and distance and social distancing with all those 3 events. So we're waiting for phase 4 before we introduce any other events. We're working on the police union barbecue, and this year we'll probably do a grab and go because of the number of people, and we probably won't be able to get back into let everybody into the dining room at that time. We're looking forward to, just having the few things that are here now is great, because having people and some little social interaction with the seniors is what, that's a lot of them, that's like the biggest thing they need right now, is to have people to talk to or just to do something other than, we've all been homebound for so long. So I hope that you can all come see us over here. And we look forward to having more events and activities and interactions.
In addition, the Council on Aging has received a grant for PPE for the elderly, as well as food coupons for an upcoming farmers market. Those coupons will be made available on August 5th. For more info on how you can qualify, you can call the Council on Aging at 978-649-9211. Over in the Veterans Affairs Office, Chris Derry, the veteran agent, tells Inside Town Hall that he's had to change his way of dealing with veterans during the COVID-19 pandemic.
The government have changed their guidelines regarding paperwork and things like that. I can't do home visits. So a lot of things are being done by phone or email. Unfortunately, some of the veterans or widows I work with are elderly and don't have access to all of that technology that others may have. So I've been working through their families and things like that to try and help them out.
Going back to school this fall is going to look and feel different for many students and even faculty. Dr. Michael Flanagan, superintendent of Tyngsboro Public Schools, tells me that he and his staff are preparing for any scenario.
So it's been very challenging. It's been very busy over the past month. I would say beginning in late May, we started to look at the possibility that we may not be coming back to school in a traditional manner. So at that point, we created a task force of 17 members. We created 2 different committees, one that looked at teaching and learning, one that looked at operations and structures. So we've had about 47 stakeholders really talking about what reopening the schools in the fall could look like. Since then, the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education has required that each public school district in the Commonwealth come up with 3 different reopening plans. One, a fully remote model, one, a hybrid, part-time in-person, part-time remote, and one, a modified in-person model. So that's the work that's been driving the task force and the committee since late May. Experiences, we know what to expect. We don't know what to expect. I think the trajectory of the virus is changing weekly. We put a survey out to the community members and the parents to find out how they feel about reopening schools in the fall. And since that survey has gone out, I've also heard from a lot of parents that say, you know what, I changed my mind. I'm more concerned or more comfortable. So it's really unstable right now, and it's hard to nail down exactly what reopening schools will look like. The one thing I do know is there is a strong desire of the community and the staff and the kids to come back in some manner. So if we can make that all possible, that's absolutely what we want to do. I think they miss that social connection to school. I know that we miss seeing our kids on a regular basis or a semi-regular basis, and I think it's good for their social emotional health and well-being.
And he offers this advice to parents.
Yeah, so I can't tell them anything. What I can tell them, I can't tell them how to feel. I'm a parent. My daughter's going to be a senior at Tingsboro High School, and I'm certainly not going to put her in an environment that risks her wellness. So I'm taking all the precautionary steps I can as a superintendent to make sure that our school and our systems are ready to go, that they are as safe as possible. And the other thing I'll say is this, that regardless of the model that we are in, whether it's fully remote or fully in person, we're going to do the very best we can, first and foremost, to catch kids up from where they were last March and to make sure that they have a great school year this year.
So we had an opportunity to take a look at what a classroom would look like in the fall. Here's some video of what that could look like. 20 seats with 3 feet separation as recommended by the State Department of Ed. And here is a 12-seat configuration as recommended by the Centers of Disease Control. Dr. Flanagan says that should they go with the 12-seat configuration, the classroom will be split into 2 groups. One group will be in 2 days a week, while the other 2 groups will be online, and vice versa. Coming up, we've got more of a roundup updates from various departments in town, as well as updates on several projects.
We're happy to announce that the Town of Tingsboro website now has the ability to send you email alerts. We know that people for a long time have utilized social media to stay connected with announcements and news releases, but this new integration allows you to sign up for an email alert after certain events. These include news posts on the homepage of the website, COVID-19 related updates posted on the coronavirus page, new public meetings that are posted on the public meeting calendar, and meeting minutes that have been posted. Let's take a look at how simple it is to sign up for these alerts. Here we find ourselves on the coronavirus COVID-19 page. We see a yellow bar that says COVID-19 News Email Alerts. Clicking on it expands the toggle. We can read the short disclaimer, enter our email address, check the CAPTCHA box, and click subscribe. The Town of Tingsboro uses a double opt-in, which is the gold standard of email subscriptions. This means you are not signed up for a list until you confirm you signed up by clicking a link in your email. This cuts down on inadvertent or malicious requests to sign you up for emails. And now you're done. You'll begin receiving emails whenever an action is triggered. While you can subscribe to different lists on these various pages, we've made it easy for you to sign up for all email alerts from a single form. Just scroll to the bottom of any page and click Email Alerts in the footer. From this form, you can sign up for any or all subscription lists. To receive all emails, you need only check the first 4 boxes. The remainder are only there if you want to granularly select which meeting minutes alerts you wish to receive. If you're ever done with your subscription, you can locate any email and click the Unsubscribe link in the footer. There's also a Manage Subscription link that will let you add or remove lists you're subscribed to. If you have any questions about this, please let us know. On the same site information page, you can find a site feedback form just above the email alert form.
Tingsboro residents are committed to reducing waste, and recycling is a big part of that.
You may have heard that there are nationwide trends that are forcing communities like ours to reduce the contamination in our recycling carts.
Recycling is made for rigid materials such as plastic, glass, metal cans, and paper and cardboard.
But some common mistakes we see in recycling are plastic bags and film, clothing, clothes hangers, and electronics.
Also, please don't bag your recyclables. Just dump them right in. And remember, your recyclables should be clean and dry.
And when in doubt, keep it out.
For more information, please visit tyngsboroma.gov or recyclesmartma.org.
This is Inside Town Hall. I'm Roni Camille. On the topic of recycling, the town of Tyngsboro recently received a grant from Mass DEP. Sustainability Chair Liz Anatavakia explains.
Residents will have their carts inspected by teams of cart checkers that are out on Monday mornings. And as the cart checkers are coming around to new bins that have not been previously inspected, they will be left with a nice new sticker on the top of the tote that explains the current recycling rules. And they'll also be left with a small, it's about 2 inches by 2 inches, a small warning tag. And the warning tag will explain either that you did a great job or that there were some items in your bin that you should leave out in future recycling weeks. It's just a warning tag to let you know what was there to help guide you through how to be a better recycler. If the cart checkers come back to your bin in future weeks and those contaminants are still present in your bin, or a new contaminant is found, then they will leave you with a much longer, it's called an OOPS tag. It's a vertical tag. It's about 10 inches long, 3 or 4 inches wide. And that will detail, again, what was found, but that will also alert the Republic Services drivers not to pick up your bin that week because contaminants were found in your bin that could potentially ruin the load of clean recyclables.
If you've taken a drive recently on Middlesex, you may have seen some activity over at the First Parish Meeting House. Well, that's because they are working on some final touches on a long-term project. Our town engineer, Jake Zwicker, explains.
There's been a lot of earthwork going on, and that's because the first project, site improvement project, begun a couple of weeks ago. The awarding contractor for that is RE Contracting, and that project will include new sidewalks, expanding the parking area, minor drainage improvements, and upgrading ADA accessibility. And the time frame for that, for the work under that contract to be completed is mid-September.
And town officials tell Inside Town Hall that the bid process to repair the cupola, which was damaged last summer, should be going out later on this August or in the fall. Moving up the street up Middlesex, here's Assistant Town Administrator Justin Salzbach with an update on the Littlefield Library project.
Hi there, I'm Justin Salzbach, your Assistant Town Administrator, and you're joining me today at the historic Littlefield Library in the Tyngsboro Town Center. The Littlefield Library is a classic example of colonial revival architecture. It was built in 1905. I'm using $5,000 donation from Lucy Littlefield, who wanted to name it in honor of her daughter. Interestingly enough, the Littlefields have a deep history in the town of Tyngsboro. Lucy Littlefield's grandfather was actually a lieutenant in the Revolutionary War and was one of the town's first tax collectors. In addition to that, Lucy's one of the first women elected to the Tyngsboro School Committee. As such, this is an important piece of Tyngsboro history. So over the past decade or more, the town administration and Board of Selectmen have been working with our Historical Commission and Community Preservation Commission to restore historic town buildings in our town center. This has included the old town hall on Kendall Road, the First Parish Meeting House, which is wrapping up, and even the Tyngsboro Bridge in 2012. The Littlefield Library is just one more piece or component of the overall town center feel, and that's why we're taking the time to look at it today. Unfortunately, CPA funds wouldn't cover this project alone. Luckily for us, the state has certain funds available that we can use in addition to CPA funds that will reduce some of the burden of costs of the town of Tingsboro in restoring this property. The Massachusetts Historic Preservation Fund granted us $55,000 as a match towards the CPA funds that we'll be using to restore this property. Part of the application process included a historic conditions assessment, which was done by BCA Architects down in Newton. What this included was a top to bottom review of the existing structure, including the foundation, the original historic brickwork, the windows, the trim work, and the slate roof. One of the struggles we oftentimes find living in the region of New England is that our buildings are subjected to extremely harsh winters. A good example of that is the flashing on the roof, which every winter is slowly peeled back by ice running along the slate. This project would restore that flashing, restore the brickwork, and prevent moisture from entering the building. I'm going to take you around to the other side of the building where you can see a good example of the issues we're running into with the existing slate roof. Now, this is all original. It's been repaired off and on over the past 115 years, but over time, ice gets underneath the slate shingles, pops them off the roof, and we end up with these piles along the ground. Unfortunately for us, red slate is one of the most expensive slate materials available for roofs, and that was another reason why we went for a historical matching grant. Almost every element of this building is original, with a few small exceptions. This includes the windows, which had been replaced, although the trim work surrounding them is all original. In addition, there is a doghouse addition off the rear that leads to the basement. While this provides access and it's fire code compliant, it is not original to the building, and therefore it was not eligible for grant funding. Because of this, prior to the start of the restoration, we had to review this existing addition in conjunction with our skilled maintenance craftsman, Sean Keegan. Looked at this, saw what options we had, and he is actually replacing this prior to the start of the restoration work. This area was almost entirely rotted out, so the restoration would include the addition of clapboard to match the clapboard at the historic Winslow School, as well as new windows, which you can see are heavily damaged. This will take care of this entire section of the building, making it weather tight and further protecting the interior of the structure. When it comes to costs, we also look for opportunities for cost savings. In order to save a little money in previous restorations, some of the original red slate was put aside so that we could use in future projects. We'll be doing our best to try to use this as we move forward with the historic preservation project at the Littlefield Library. This is another good example of some of the rot that we're dealing with on the building. This frame, part of the addition, will be entirely replaced, but as you can see, it's subject to dry rot. Other changes made over the years include the addition of a handicap ramp, which makes this building ADA accessible. We're waiting on a final cost estimate that will allow us to complete this building from start to finish. This would mean the Littlefield Library will be protected for the next 50 years. At last year's annual town meeting, the Community Preservation Commission put forward a warrant article that approved $45,000 as part of the match for restoration. This was approved by the people of town Tingsboro at the annual town meeting. Now that we have the grant match in hand, and once we have the final cost estimate, we'll be able to bring the total final amount to the CPC for their approval. We expect this work to go out over this upcoming winter, with work officially expected to kick off in the spring of 2021. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about this important piece of Tingsboro history, or if you'd like to see the interior of the Littlefield Library, the Tingsboro Historic Commission meets every other Tuesday at 7 p.m. Come on by.
And we're moving on to roads in town. The town of Tingsboro recently received $436,000 in Chapter 90 funds to be used for road repairs. Town engineer Jake Swicker explains how these funds will be used.
The engineering department is currently working on street improvement projects, such as the 2020 Roads Improvement Project, which the engineering department hosted a bid opening last week, and the apparent low bidder for that project was PJ Keating. PJ Keating was also the contractor for the 2019 road improvements project, and the town was very satisfied with their work, so we're looking forward to continuing working with PJ Keating for this year's project. This project list will include Beverly Road, Washington Street, Jefferson Drive, Coolidge Drive, Franklin Drive, Makos, and Dixon Road.
And while this contract is up for 1 year, Zwicker tells Inside Town Hall he hopes this project will be completed before the start of winter. The annual town elections were held in June. They were delayed due to COVID-19. Town Clerk Joanne Shifris took time to talk about the next election, a state primary being held in September.
The latest with the elections is that we will have the polls open. They will be open from 7 in the morning till 8 p.m. The protocol will be much similar to what we had at the town election, which is there'll be a 6-foot social distancing. Masks will be required. The booths will be cleaned after each use. We will be giving every voter a golf pencil instead of having the markers, so that we don't have to be cleaning them. So you will be able to go to the precinct if that's your preference. By now, most of you have received the mail-in ballot applications for you to receive a ballot from me in the mail. With that being said, none of them have gone out yet because I'm still waiting for things from the state to include in the ballots. As soon as I get that, and I'm supposed to be getting it sometime this week, they will all be mailed. And if you don't receive it, I'd say by, next week is the week of the 10th, by the 17th, at the very latest, I would recommend that you contact me and we can try to track it or resend it. The other thing that I wanted to let you know is simply that there will be in-person early voting as well as the mail-in ballots. Now, to give you some of the dates, first of all, the last day to register to vote in the primary is August 22nd, and that's a Saturday. So that also happens to coincide with the first day of early voting. So the town hall will be open for early voting in person on Saturday, August 22nd, from 12 to 4. The voting will also take place on Sunday from 10 to 2, then Monday through Thursday, 8:30 to 4, and Friday, 8:30 to 12:30. That is for the primary. There will also be early voting in person for the presidential election, which we'll get into those dates later to not confuse everything. So, to return your ballots, you can return your ballots by putting them in the drop box, which is outside the town hall, mailing it, or you can come into town hall and drop it off. The other thing I would recommend is if you did not receive a mail-in application, the card, to contact me, because I can always mail you one. They are also on the state website, mass.gov. If you go to the Secretary of the Commonwealth's page, there's an application form there that you could print off and send in, or put it in the drop box outside Town Hall. And again, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to call. We're here every day, and we'll be happy to take your questions and answer them and help you figure out how to work this whole thing.
In addition, there are some other open positions that need to be filled. Colin Loisel, Director of Administrative Services, explains.
There are currently vacancies on our Commission on Disability as a member, on the Council on Aging and the Recreation Committee also as a member, and then the Zoning Board of Appeals has an alternate member which serves in a very similar capacity to the position that we'll fill on Monday.
Great.
If you are interested in serving, you can reach out to our office at 978-649-2300, and we'll let you know the process to do so.
Fire Chief Wes Russell is asking all residents to keep safety in mind this summer.
Summer goes on, people, love to get outside and get some fresh air. If people are using fire for recreation, cooking, and that kind of thing, they need to be careful during this time of year. It starts to get drier. I'll know that this weekend decide with the humidity. but and the grass starts to dry up and the leaves and stuff. So it's easy to let a small spark or something can ignite brush and get out of control. So we want people to be careful about where they're using fire. And certainly, you know, boating and water safety is critical. People should be wearing life jackets, not swimming alone. You mentioned there was a tragedy in the next door community that we had to respond to and assist several communities with a tragic drowning. And, you know, we just need to try to avoid those situations if we can. Just, you know, be careful. And if you have questions about how to be safer in the water or safe, you know, when using fire, you know, we're there for people to call and ask questions. If you have a church group or a community group, you know, we go to the Council on Aging and do some education, brief discussions, lunchtime discussions or something like that. We can have firefighters come out and talk to a group about those kind of things as well.
Now, a roundup of updates from the following departments. Recreation.
Because of COVID, we are basically working on a fall project, which will be the rehabbing of our town beach. So we will totally be redoing our town beach, which was started last winter, and we will be going back to annual town meeting to request the remainder of the money to get that accomplished. We're also working on basically just keeping our fields green and ready for hopefully fall season, if not for spring season as well.
Sewer.
Okay, so I just wanted to give a basic update on the Phase 2 sewer project that has been going on in town for the past year. The project was originally approved at annual town meeting in May of 2018. Construction started in June of 2019. So for the past year, we've had sewer infrastructure being installed in town by Albanese DNS. The project was designed by Woodard and Curran engineers. And the purpose of this project was to extend the sewer main from the Applewood Plaza, heading north up Middlesex Road until the New Hampshire border. The largest expanse of commercial and industrial property in town is on Middlesex Road. So this was vital to those businesses to get sewer installed there. As part of the project, we have had 2 pump stations constructed. One is at 371 Middlesex Road, which is directly across from the DCU Credit Union, and the other is at 1 Parker Lane. And at this point in time with the project, all of the sewer infrastructure has been installed, the pump stations have been constructed, a line has been brought, a force main has been brought over the Tingsboro Bridge, which will go to the Parker Lane pump station and then pumped out through our lines, through Drake-It, and off to Lowell Wastewater Facility. All of the paving on the project has been done at this time, so really just the remainder left to do is some small site work at the pump stations and some electrical work, and then they'll just be starting up and testing them. So we're hoping to have the project wrapped up in September or October. The line will go active at that point in time. And the project is being paid for by betterment assessments and a contribution from the town. So we had applied and were awarded a MassWorks grant in the amount of $2.5 million. And that was used to defer some of the infrastructure costs for both the sewer portion of the project and the water portion. The water department has also installed a short area of water main on Middlesex Road to connect 2 dead-end connections that they already had installed. So that will provide water now to all of those parcels up Middlesex Road as well. Everything over and above the MassWorks grant is being assessed by betterments to the parcel owners who abut the project. And the town is also contributing 20% to the project as well. So like I said, we're in the final stages. We're hoping to wrap everything up by this fall. At that point in time, we will be sending letters out to all of the parcel owners to give them instructions on how to connect and how we will be assessing the betterments and the process for them to pay.
Accounting.
It is an interesting year, and this is typically the busiest time for accounting as we're trying to close out the fiscal year and begin a new fiscal year. This has definitely been a unique year for that because normally we'll have an approved budget by this point in time. Normally the town meeting happens back in May and we approve the next fiscal year's budget. But since we have not yet been able to hold the town meeting due to the results of the pandemic, we've been operating on a month-to-month budget. So we just finalized our August budget at last evening's Board of Selectmen meeting, and the July budget was previously approved. So it's looking like we'll do one more one-month budget for September, and then hopefully we'll be able to finalize an annual budget and move on from there.
Assessor.
Well, right now at this time of year, we're reviewing all of the properties that have sold during the previous calendar year, so 2019, because those property sales are used to form the valuations for the next fiscal year, 2021. So we're reviewing those, reviewing the listings. We're not really doing property inspections right now because of the pandemic situation. But we send out sales verification questionnaires to the new owners to gather information about the sales. So then we'll do some sales analysis, and then that will determine where our assessments need to go for the following year. And the other big thing that we're doing right now is at the beginning of the fiscal year, all of our exemption applications are available. So that's for people who, seniors age 65 and older. There are income and asset requirements that need to be met for the application process, but that can give them a discount or reduction on their property taxes.
Conservation.
First one that I wanted to just update people on is we are working with our IT director on getting online permitting. This would allow you to submit your application from your house, upload it as a PDF to Viewpoint or OpenGov, the program that our building department uses, and the best part is all your materials would always be there, so if you ever misplace a paper copy of anything, it's always going to be in that portal for you. It should streamline the process for everybody, for the applicant and for the Conservation Department. Finally, we were working on the EPA MS4 stormwater permit. If you may or may not know, the EPA essentially mandates that towns who have a certain population in the urbanized area, so if you have more than 1,000 people living in a census-designated urbanized area, you must comply with certain mandates from EPA. The new permit has over 200 mandates. So myself and the town engineer, Jake Zwicker, are working on making sure that the town meets those requirements. You may see us out and about around town because one of the requirements that is due at the end of year 3 is sampling every outfall in town during dry weather. If there is any water flowing at all, during dry weather, we are mandated to sample that water and see if it's clean. If it's not clean, we're mandated to trace the source upstream and remediate any illicit connections to our storm drains. This could be coming from a house, a business, it could just be groundwater, but there's specific contaminants you need to test for to make sure that there's no bacteria or soaps or anything like that coming into our storm drains.
Highway.
Summer's a busy time for us. You know, everything's growing, so we have a couple guys out in the ball fields cutting the town buildings. We're doing a lot of brush cutting right now, catch basin cleaning, catch basin repairs, crosswalks, and line painting.
Planning.
Well, since we've been responding to COVID, it's been very busy. I'm pleased to say that the processes that we've come up with to enable our boards to work remotely and have remote meetings have meant that we've been able to keep our special permit applications moving through the process quite smoothly. And I think it's actually improved our transparency and engagement with the public. So overall, things have been going great. At 100 Business Park Drive, there's already an existing building. The property owner there is developing a 55,000 square foot building right behind it, which will be at 200 Business Park Drive. I'm excited, of course, because it's a fairly large building. However, we're expecting to also receive somewhere between 30 and 40 new employees, daytime workers with high-tech manufacturing jobs that I think is going to be great for the town itself. Some of the other ones that have some higher profiles are actually still in the process right now under review with the planning board. Those include the tavern-style restaurant that people have probably seen, the vacant area that's in between the firehouse and the old town hall. Fran Glavin's submitted an application to both the Planning Board, Zoning Board of Appeals, and Conservation Commission with a fantastic looking application for about a 3,500 square foot tavern-style restaurant with a patio. He'll be utilizing some space that's behind that building to develop a shared parking lot that he's leased from the town, so that we'll be able to increase parking for both town events as well as for the business that'll be located there.
You've been watching Inside Town Hall on Tingsboro TV, produced by the Office of Media Programming. We hope you found this program informative. You can learn more from your town government by visiting the town website at tingsboroma.gov. Matt Hanson is our town administrator, Justin Solzbach is our assistant, our Board of Selectmen chair is Dave Robeson, and our vice chair is Rick Rowe. Special thanks to Karen Wolf behind the camera and in master control. I'm Roni Camille, and thank you so much for watching.